All right, hey folks, let's see if we are live this morning and get into this. Let's see. Episode 2 of the Upper Encounter. Okay, cool, great. We are active. I can hear myself. I'm going to drop my volume down to nip, and we're going to grab our link here, and we're going to post on the social medias that we are live. So, hey folks, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, I publish online, and I have been I've been DMing D&D since 1987. I've been using Eberron as my homebrew plane since 2006. 20th anniversary was this year, 20 years old, 2004. Way to go, Keith. And Eberron setting, what just a great setting. And I've been creating content for 5e, publishing on the DMsGuild since 2017. So this is the first adventure that I've created, and obviously I'm going to place it in the Eberron campaign setting and publishing on the DMsGuild to put all the different things in my life together. I'm really looking forward to having this, publishing this. This is kind of like a milestone for myself. I've created player supplements, I've created DM supplements. Now I did a remake of Light of Xeraxis in the Spelljammer setting guide that I created, Combat and Exploration. Okay, cool. So, and now I'm creating a completely original adventure that we play tested and basically built here online. So. Let's see. Oh yeah, my Twitter account. I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. Tag along if you want to get notifications when I'm live. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications. Thanks a lot to new subscribers this month. I really appreciate you guys. And here's the entire playlist. We are now at episode 299. This is the cover that we created back on episode around episode 40 is when we started creating the book cover. So you'll see this on the DMsGuild. It'll be about that size when you see it on screen, so you can click into it to get a better look. And then, of course, we'll have the free preview for the adventure so you can see it. And then all the past 300 episodes of us creating maps and tokens, those will all be included in a zip file for folks to be able to run the adventure with. So right now we're making a scenario map for Up a Tree, which is a one of the first encounters that the characters have. It's in the Carnwood Forest. And they basically find NPCs stuck in a tree, trying to stay awake. There is a horde of undead that know they're in the tree, but can't get to them due to undead clumsiness. So one of the NPCs has already fallen out of the tree when they fell asleep. So now the other two are terrified to go to sleep and getting eaten by undead. So they're you know, they've ran out of hope. But if they can hear the team, they'll hear them and they'll call for them, and then the characters can be heroes and rescue them, and in that process receive new information about what, you know, like what did they encounter, where are these undead coming from, and get whatever information is that the NPCs have for the characters to continue pushing them down the pipeline to adventure. And depending on what plot hook you use, changes who's in the tree. And we have a section in the back of the book. One of the appendices talks about the different types of plot hooks that you can run, the different rewards and benefits that you gain from running that hook, and how different encounters change in the adventure based on which hook you use. And then it goes into blending the plot hooks, where you can have like multiple plot hooks active at the same time. Like you could be hired by Ader Academy to find a stolen artifact while you're working for the sheriff, for instance, being a deputy in the outriding area. So those are two separate plot lines that can be blended together. Or like you could blend together Ader Academy working with the 12. So the Ader Academy is actually being funded by the 12, which is the dark guild of archmages that pull the strings. Like supervillains in the background of Eberron. You could be an assassin of theirs, working with Aether Academy to secure facilities to conduct illegal necromancy operation experiments. So it's like a it's like dark funding from Aether Academy. That could be a combination of plot hooks, where something has gone wrong and you need to go in and re-secure the facility from apparently corrupt influences that are operating outside the scope of the project and need to be culled and replaced by more professional, less zealot performers. So right now we're making, so this is the tree that they're in. It's a big tree. It's, what is it? It's like 16 across, so that's like 80, 90 feet. That's a big tree. We might end up thickening the trunk. But right now I'm just making sure all the connection points are good here. And then we'll start building the branches outward in. The new methods that we've been using here is to, hold on, make sure I build this right, is we build the basic skeleton like this, make sure all the connection points are good. And then from the tips inward, we clean up the lines. We start at the tips so we know how thin it needs to be. So regardless of how many branches may reconnect, it thickens with every branch until we get to the trunk. And so if we start the tip working inward, we can make sure that the branches are staying balanced with the length that they have and the number of connections that they have. So that's what we're doing this morning. We're making this tree. All these other trees are just tokens that there's a tree and there's its roof. See, there's the interior space that we'll end up with, and here's the color roof that we gave it, and that's in this tree, this group of trees here, and here's all the trees, and then here is our ground. I'm going to actually pre-transform. I'm going to flip that horizontally. That feels right. Cool. All right. So yeah, that's our forest terrain there. And then we'll add in obstacles and all these gap spaces. We'll fill that in with briar and rocks and stuff. So the project's going along nicely. I'm really happy with this. Now that we have all these tokens built, making maps is super fucking easy for the forest. So I'll offer all these tools. They'll come for free in the adventure, and I think I'll also publish them on. I'll post them up on my Patreon page for maybe a couple bucks. I guess I've gotten started on the trimming process. So we're gonna start here and work our way around. I'm gonna actually declare that I'm starting here. So we're gonna start with this branch and work our way around. So I want to trim this down. This is a 2 pixel brush that we're using here. See, 2 pixel brush up here in the corner. So we thin that down to 1 pixel as our tip. And all we have to do is tip all of the branches. And once we tip all the branches, we can start moving inward into the trunk. This one we tipped. We conducted playtesting for the Martial Power System last night, and Eric, our new playtester, jumped on board with us and built himself an Azorius Paladin and promptly helped the team fight a bunch of crawdads and giant crabs and fuck around into some steam vents and mucked around in a hex crawl as one would do. So good times, good. Oh yeah, and they fought the apex predator, the huge-sized wyvern that is the dominant creature. They fought that, lost about a third of their resources in the process before it cut combat and flew away, having to basically go nurse its wounds in its back in its nest. So the team knows that they can defeat it, and they know that it can do a stupid amount of damage. Classic boss fight scenario: shows up, throws its weight around, beats up the team a little bit, and then leaves, challenging them to go find it again. But they cannot secure the current tile that they're in until they're able to quell that wyvern and its flock. There's a whole flock of wyverns up in one of the sky islands. So ultimately, they have to disable they have to get rid of the wyverns somehow to be able to secure the place. We know that there's a threat. There's crawdads and giant crabs and crocodiles that are a threat while the team are in the lowlands that are flooded over. It's basically like a delta that crustaceans and sharks and stuff can swim in and out of freely. It leads into a swamp, into a lake system, and that ultimately spills into a swamp on the map. And so that's where they landed next to. So there's all this amphibious and like lizard life that absolutely just wants to eat the players. So they're gonna have to find dry space for the NPC caravan to be able to take long rests. Back where they're at currently, in the previous tile, they're on the Sky Islands. They're no, that's not right. They've got security drones from the Izzet Sphinx that's providing protection to the caravan while they're on sandbars, elevated from the swamp. So basically, they have sentries that are helping guard them while they're in the tile with the Sphinx, because the team helped the Sphinx recover some power stones. That is a It's a mana crystals. It's a source of mana. It acts as a battery, and you can, as a bonus action, you can drain the mana out of the crystal to replenish or to regain your own mana from your mana pool. So you can either use it as you could plug a mana crystal into a magic item. If the magic item requires mana to power it, if you have a mana stone, you can power the item with that mana crystal. So you can either use it to refresh your battery or to act as your battery when you're using magic items. But did I say that clumsily enough? I'll work on making it worse. But yeah, that's a great resource, and they're scattered all over the place if you can find them. So it's a way to juice up the amount of mana that you have by collecting batteries. They're basically like mana potions. Basically, they replenish on a daily basis, and they typically hold a common would hold 2 mana, and a legendary would have 6, and they replenish per 24 hours. Whenever the attuned creature completes a long rest, or 24 hours, whichever comes first. Because when you're attuned to the item, when you replenish your mana pool, your attunement causes the crystal to replenish as well. And when it's not on the person, when it's not in possession of an attuned person, then it just naturally pulls mana in from the environment around it every 24 hours. So most likely, when you find the crystal, unless it was recently used, it'll be fully juiced. feels really good. I am apparently going to initiate some fits of silence here, so don't mind me as I go quiet for a little bit. I might have stuff to talk about, but I'm just recognizing that I might disengage in conversation. Normally my home team, my forever table, would have our session on Mondays, but we had some absences yesterday, so we punted the game to Wednesday. And this is for the diplomacy dungeon that I was streaming over the weekend and last week on Friday. That's right, it was on Friday. Friday and Thursday night and Friday day. No, Thursday night and Saturday morning. That's when I streamed the diplomacy diplomacy dungeon, basically building out the victory conditions, difficulties, and challenges that the team would face in a diplomacy negotiation. Like they're meeting with diplomats from the Droam nation to hopefully request / demand that that Droam leave their territory and hopefully not have to resort to violence, because the nation of Droam has a lot more resources and can out battle the characters guild. So they're treading carefully. Oh, they will be treading carefully, but they have demands that they need their territories back, and the Droam military is apparently squatting in it. And so while the military is present, your miners are unwilling to work. So the team has been facing a lot of labor issues recently from these miners that are becoming more and more concerned about the presence of how aggressive Droam is being in their region. And the team is currently in the process of breeding rock-eating bugs that will turn them from being a mining corporation into basically insect ranchers, feeding their bugs asteroids as they come into orbit. Very interesting find. They've never heard of these things before. Their characters have no information about these bugs, but creatures just drift in from the void on these asteroids, and most of the time they're just killed because they're horrible monsters and they need to die. But in an instance like this, these bugs are actually incredibly useful. So they are attempting to learn how to wrangle them so that they can take a shipment of them to an asteroid and just have them eat the asteroid, and then just scoop up the minerals that are left behind, like gold, platinum, and stuff like that. They don't eat the precious, like Zorns eat precious metal and leave nothing but carbon behind. But these rock bugs, we don't have a formal name for them yet, but the rock bugs, they eat the carbon and leave the minerals behind. So between Zorns and these bugs, there would literally be nothing left of an asteroid if they were both on one together. But most of the there's a random table that determines how much and what type of ore is on an asteroid and how much of the asteroid is the ore for them to be able to harvest resources from. And one of the options is carbon, just carbon. It's a shit result. Like a result of 1 is just carbon. And if there's a complication with that asteroid while it's being surveyed, the answer is going to be Zorns. Zorns have lived on this asteroid. They've completely exhausted its supply, and now they are incredibly hungry, and will attack anything that is made out of metal, because they're desperate for ore. Even shit quality pig iron is good enough for them. So they will attack your ships if they can get to them, and that can create a new challenge. But the team hasn't gotten there yet, but that would be most likely a military type challenge, because Zorns have no value. They destroy all your wealth. They are incredibly angry, intelligent, and uncompromising. I mean, they have to eat your money. So you either kill them or get rid of them. Like if the team ever gets, like if a team's commerce ever gets what's the word I'm looking for? God, sabotage. Thank you. If during the campaign, if the guild's refineries are sabotaged, a good way to do that would be to have excuse me. Whew, boy, oh boy, would be to have somebody drop Zorns off inside of their refinery to eat all of their resources. They would have to hunt it down and kill it while it's eating all their stuff. That'd be fun. All right, cool. So now we have all the we've tipped all of our branches, and now we can go in and start. I'm going to increase the fonts, the brush size to 3 pixels instead of 2, and snake my way down each branch until they broaden to 3 pixels. And then when they connect, there'll be 5 pixels here. So this is going to be 3 pixels. I'm going to thin this down. Make sure that stays clean. I can't make the connecting branch here more than 5 pixels, otherwise it looks unnatural, like an unnaturally thick branch knot at the end of the branch, at a branching point, at a fork. Thank you. At a fork, will make the branch too heavy this far out, and it'll make it off balance, and it'll look like it. So we draw the we draw the initial branches as 2 pixels. We shave down the tips to 1 pixel, and at the first fork it's 2 pixels, 3 pixels. Sorry, it goes from 3 pixels, the 3 pixels binding at the first fork, and from that fork becomes a 5 pixel branch. So I'm just tracing a 3 pixel line across the 2 pixel line, and then smoothing out the edges so that it blends down into 2 pixels. There, like that. Hey, Rel, how you doing? Good gaming yesterday, my guy. I'm great. I got a good night's sleep. I've had really thrilled with the playtest yesterday. It was I like having a good mix of exploration, like tricks and puzzles and things to mess around with, versus combat, because a lot of the features that the characters have with this mana system is like you can use them as resource, like the paladin, for instance, and the artificer can both share mana with other characters. So that's a really fun really fun game mechanic to lean into. And then the team having like exploring underwater, for instance, having a reason to use up resources to have access to water breathing. This was for me. This was good stuff. This is really, really good DM stuff for me to chew on. Plus, I'm playtesting the Rubble Belt setting itself as a random encounter generating campaign setting, and so far, I've been really, really happy with the stuff that the team has been running across, just like the random encounters and the terrain and the variety of stuff between like infrastructure ruin that the team can explore inside of versus trotting over land. I am as a DM and as a adventure creator, I'm really, really enjoying just the team tromping around in that stuff. So this is a single line right now, so it goes from 1 pixel to 2 pixels to 3 pixels before blending into the 5 pixel stump further forward here. And right now I'm feeling like there's going to be another branch off of this. Like something like that. And you guys were able to fight off the huge size wyvern. It got away, obviously, but you can drop it, and you can severely damage it, make it run away. And since that's the largest aerial predator that you guys have seen in the current land tile, so defeating the wyverns is going to be critical for being able to secure the environment for your caravan to roll in. So despite anything else that you guys encounter, I would say at this point it's pretty well established that the wyverns need to be quelled one way or another. Whether you are able to find a way to kill them all, or drive them away, or neutralize them in one manner or another, they cannot be hunting in the sky and snatching people away if you want to move the caravan into this tile. So. And if you leave this tile, they've got a taste for you now, so you can't run away from them. They can hunt you. So you have to deal with them, because if you just leave, they're going to follow you. Your threats follow you, which is why you stay in the same tile and end them so that they don't stack up. Every time you go to a new tile and find new creatures to hate you, they'll start forming a train behind your train and catch up and eat all your people. So that's the underlying pressure of the campaign, is once you crack the seal, you gotta drink the whole can, you know? So I will express again my appreciation. I think for the artificer, for the alchemist, I think I want to look at, because you can spend a spell slot to create a new potion. I think I want to take a close look at what the list of potions are that can be created, and like if there's depending on what they can do, they probably have an equivalent level spell that they're replicating for the most part, or a class feature that can be replicated. And I think I want to make, since the mana pool is so flexible. See, the thing about like spend a spell slot, you only have 4 first level spell slots, and now you're eating 2nd level spell slots. So you spend 4 mana, and then you spend 2 mana a pop, right? 4 first level spells is 1 mana each. And once you get through those, it becomes 2 mana each. And then it's 3 mana each, all the way up to 9 mana once, because of the 9th level spell slot. So if every time you spend a spell slot, you gain a resource, typically that equates to spend 2 mana. But for the alchemist specifically, I get the feeling that they're really thin on resources. and because they're a support class, I think they need buffing the way that Wizards thinks that healing does. So you get more value out of the spell slot that you're spending. So I think what that's going to end up meaning is like if like first level spell effects from the potions are 1 mana, and that would allow you to potentially store more spells as potions. Like they have the quick list of potions that you can do by default, but like we could make research. We could have research be a way to add a spell to your roster of potions, and so if you want to spend downtime to become a more knowledgeable alchemist, you can add different level spell effects, and then anytime you want to brew that potion, you would spend that many spell points appropriately. If you want to have a 4th level potion, then spend 4 mana to brew that potion. Bring that one in just a little bit, I think. No, maybe the right answer is move forward. Why did that happen? There, like that. Yeah, let's push that out. I'm going to give this a twist. There. I like that idea. I really this wouldn't be a Martial Powers idea. This would be a Spell Point Artificer idea. So we rebuild the Color Mana Core Mechanics book, and then we redo Knights and Tricksters. We redo Elemental Key. We redo Spell Point Sorcerers. Martial Powers would be published. And then we publish Spellpoint Sorcerers, then Spellpoint Artificers, and that will complete the set of mana books that I intended. And then from there, we consider doing niche, specific projects off of my Patreon, like Book of Dimir, Book of Boros, stuff like that, and take all the spell point, mana, martial powers. Oh yeah, there's also Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica. I need to update that with the new rules for the Warlock as well. So Spellpoint Sorcerer, Spellpoint Warlocks and Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica need to be updated. I also have mechanical ideas for the Gods of Theros, doing God enchantments, like the Magic the Gathering cards, where they're auras until there's enough creatures with devoted to the god's color, and then the god itself also becomes a creature. That's a Magic the Gathering mechanic for the Theros setting, and that's one of the big things about Theros was the god enchantments. You had the 15 different, like you had 5 monocolor gods, like the primary gods, the elder gods, and then you had the 10 children gods, which were like Ravnica color blends. And they became more powerful as more creatures worshiped them, which is expressed as being devoted to the color of mana that god represents in Theros. So the more mana you put into, like the more red mana you put into summoning Eros, for example, the larger summon of that god you can produce. And if you put 10 mana into it, you're scaling up at Spelljammer sizes. It's like you could have like a 5-foot version of your god for 1 mana, or you could have like a 500-foot version of your god for 10 mana. Scale in between. And then we build a stat block and provide special powers for each of the gods of Theros based on what the new ally summoning mechanics will be in 2014, in the new 2024 books. Like when you summon pixies, for instance, like they can perform magical actions to assist, like to buff your team. We'll see what the limits of those are at different spell levels, and from that be able to drop down to 3 pixels. We'll be able to build a scaling god summon. I'm yammering a little bit, but this is stuff that I've been thinking about for a while, and I didn't have the books published to be able to reinforce the mechanical language behind it. So that's what happens. I build a core mechanics book. Yeah. So I build a core mechanics book, and then from that book, it allows me to express different campaign narrative ideas. And so the book comes out, and then I move on to the next task. And as I continue moving from project to project, I eventually fill in all these different pieces and ideas. And it creates a larger body of variant 5e mechanics inside of a connected catalog of stuff that I've built. That's how I work as a designer. I'm definitely yammering. My coffee pot literally just sighed at me. Screw you, coffee. We're going to be back on. So I stream, currently I stream 9 times per week. I do Monday through Friday in the morning like this, doing Eberron Cartography. We'll be doing page layouts probably by the end of the month. And then interior artwork on top of that. And on Tuesdays, including today, as well as on Fridays, we developed the martial power system. We just finished converting the backgrounds of Strixhaven into the power system, and we did some editing updates after the session yesterday on how magic items work, the mana crystals specifically. See, that's too thick. Look how thick that is compared to the head. That is too thick. That needs to thin down just a smidge. There. Holy shit, what time is it? Oh man, it's 7:20? Wow, that's great. Got a whole nother 40 minutes? That's awesome. Oh man. I should probably finish this. Nah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm kind of bouncing around from branch to branch. The howler monkey. I see text. Hold on, let me finish this line. I'll catch up with you. There. Hey, bro, what's up? How long until the player's handbook comes out? September 17th. September 17th is when those come out. And I will still be working on this Eberron adventure, which is my primary project. I'm not sure... Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to integrate the Color Mana project. We're really close to completing all the assets for Vokath's battle in the Spelljammer that we've been doing on Thursday. Because I only have Monday through Friday in the mornings is absolutely dedicated to Eberron, and my off-screen time is dedicated to Eberron as well. So I would have, I guess I'd work on the Color Mana stuff on Saturdays, and potentially on Tuesdays and Fridays at lunchtime as well. And when I get my Wednesday lunches back, sometimes I get Wednesday's lunches. Sometimes the office is too busy for me to be able to plump down and do gaming stuff at lunchtime. So I build my schedule specifically so that I have time on Tuesdays and Fridays to be able to work on martial powers at lunchtime. But that sometimes means that I have to load my Wednesday up. And if that's the case, then I can't stream that week. If I can get ahead of my workflow, and every week is different, so there's no guarantee I'll be ahead of my week by the time Wednesday comes around. And if I am, I get to stream that day. So I'm incentivized to be efficient with my own work docket. That's how I manage my work from home self-managing responsibilities is by rewarding myself with a workbench lunch. See, this is thicker now, and so this needs to be thicker to compensate for that additional girth. And this needs to be thick. And where are we at? 5 right now? Yeah. This needs to at least be, yeah, this needs to be a 5. 5 into 6. Into 7. So yeah, it looks like once September 17th happens, I mean we're still playtesting martial powers, and that's still coming along. But I'm at a fuck around and find out stage with the martial powers book, and that until we gather more playtest data, I don't have anything really to evolve it. But that, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. When September 17th happens and the player's handbook comes out, we convert all of the martial power stuff over to the 2024 rules. And once we finish that, then we can use our Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and possibly Thursday nights on color mana stuff. So I might put Spelljammer on the back burner. I know Spelljammer is more popular than color mana is, which is a fucking shame. So my audience will probably take a bit of a dip during in the next year. I'm already so close to rock bottom, it doesn't really matter. I will find my tribe. I'm already so close to I can hear myself. I don't like that. Let's turn that down a tick. Let's just turn that down a tick. There. Curve that in a touch. That's a very long branch to not have more branches branching from it. Noted. I think I'm going to have to fork this arm again. Hey, what's up? What? No. I've got a great day job. Fantastic day job. I am doing well. This is a hobby. This is a hobby that I dream someday I can do instead of collecting Social Security. You know, in America we have this poverty line that basically is Social Security. It's government provides you basically about, well, if I were to be on Social Security right now, it'd be about 20% of my current income. It'd be a nightmare. So I've got a good maybe 20 years left in me of being able to produce stuff to hopefully build up enough momentum to keep me alive for the next, for the 5 to 20 years after age 70 I live. God knows what it's going to be like. We'll see if UBI kicks in the next 12 years or so, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I've never felt any concern for the future or any reason to be afraid. The world conspires to my success. And I just let it lead me to where it wants to go, and I've always ended up landing on my feet or better off than I was before. So my journey as a human being has basically been a master course in learning to trust my intuition to guide me to safety and the things that I want in my life. I've been very blessed in that sense, but I very consciously surrender control of my decisions to the intuition as much as I can. And that's not always an easy task. Oh, I only have 446 subscribers. That's like if I lose half of my audience because I stopped doing Spelljammer stuff for a while in preference to Color Mana, like I don't have that far to fall. I'm not, I'm already so close to nothing that it doesn't really matter if my channel collapses because people lose interest in the work that I do. Hopefully people just see what I'm doing and groove on it. That'd be awesome. But there's no guarantee that the stuff that I work on is going to resonate, with a broad audience, as it were. I'm compelled to do the work that I do, and I just hope that it's interesting to people. So I feel, rewarded for the amount of effort that I put into it. Because money is a great way to keep score. If you make a lot of money, it means that you are doing something that generates value for somebody else. Like, even just passive stock growth is still adding value to the stockholders. Like, even though it's a passive activity, it's a productive activity, so it generates money. And whatever generates money in our culture is looked up at. I would say one of my driving, one of my compelling reasons to do, quote unquote, my reasons to do is very much status. I like prestige, and I like being on the inside of circles and being in the know and having a broader perspective than those around me. It's gathering information and intelligence is something that I've learned to grow to value as somebody with limited vision. Knowing more than the people around me allows me to feel like I'm on even footing with them. Like, they might see more of what's going on right now, but the stuff that I can see, I have a deeper insight about what's going on with it than perhaps other people around me. So that's a way to protect my fragile, disabled ego in a world where I'm constantly feeling at disadvantage. That's a peek under my psychological hood. Enjoy. I'm gonna hide the grid. I don't think it's doing me any favors right now. That looks pretty well balanced. The girth of the branch at here. I should thicken that up a little bit. That may have been too much. I'm very picky about proportions for such an inconsequential piece. You know, in the grand scheme of things. That feels good though. Clean that up a touch. I like that. That feels good. So I want to say, okay, great. How do you run high-level campaigns? I heard combat is not a big part of them, and spells like Gate are more important. How are they supposed to look like? Okay, so that's a story. Broad topic. I've spent a number of hours talking about running high-level games. I should probably compile them into a collection for people to more easily digest. But the gist of it is, let's see. Give me a second here to compose myself. I've got it's 7:30. I've got 20 minutes. Let me take a sip here of water and coffee. Coffee chaser. Okay, so high-level adventures come in one of two ways. It's either a one-shot, which is by far the most common way people run high-level games, in that you roll up an artificially generated high-level character, and then basically you playtest class features you otherwise have never actually used in a game. That's your typical one-shot, like your 20th level one-shot or 16th level one-shot. There's like 2% of the player base have ran a campaign from level 1 to 20. So I don't remember the specific statistics, but I know that Wizards put out a thing a while ago basically talking about the breakdown. And by far, the vast majority of campaigns end before 9th level. If they start at 1st level, chances are they're going to end by 7th. If they start, so you basically typically have like maybe 5 or 6 level in an active campaign. You have about 5 or 6 levels worth of game before it collapses. Most of that has to do with pacing. It could also be due to an unstable plot that loses focus and direction. So the players divest from it. And then one of the main problems with creating artificial characters is that the DM can't contain them, so they're not fun. There's nothing like I've used this analogy a number of times in the past, but a DM and players is much like somebody playing with a dog, and in this example, the players as a team represents the dog holding on to a chew toy. The chew toy is basically like the adventure, like adventuring as a concept, as an activity. We are playing a role-playing game. We are adventuring. So the act of adventuring is like a dog enjoying a chew toy. And the DM is the guy that grabs hold of the chew toy and tries to pull it out of the dog's mouth. Not to get the toy, but to entertain the dog. Like, as a person, generally, I could punch the dog in the face and take the and like I could do this and I would get the object from its mouth and I would injure the dog. My goal isn't to get it. My goal is to apply pressure, much like a father with children will roughhouse at a degree of intensity that the children can safely enjoy while still feeling risk and danger and excitement of messing around with their papa, right? Like that's what kids love. Dads represent this fearful energy, this power energy that kids want to tap into because it's thrilling to feel power because children are powerless. So they love having that interaction with their fathers because that's often where that source of like that power energy comes from. So like a father wrestling with their kids, a well-adjusted father will understand and know how much force they can use to challenge the kid and make them laugh and have fun and safely fail but continue with their day safely, right? That's the DM's job, is to wrestle with the chew toy, to wrestle with the kids, because a DM has infinite power based on the narrative, like the DM screen. The DM side of the screen has infinite power. I could make the world blow up and decide whether your characters die or not, but if the players don't buy in to the story, they're not going to be happy that their characters died because the DM decided to, and let's just reboot the campaign, you all die. It's like, wait, I was emotionally invested in that character. I don't appreciate them just dying because you decided that everyone should die. That's like that these are the social contracts that exist at the gaming table, like why people are there, which is why it's important to understand why people are there or to clearly define why we're there. Like in playtesting, it's not about building your character and progressing a storyline that you're emotionally invested in. It's a playtest is generally just running around, mucking up terrain, throwing mana at stuff, and trying to make your character break. Like that's what a playtest game is for, which is different from like a live campaign. And then a live campaign is very different depending on the intended duration of the campaign. Again, most like one-shots that start at and end at 20th level, you're basically playtesting class features that you as a player normally don't equip and make use of. Like you have no practical experience with using gate, you know, or like hell, I don't know, using contact other plane or Gias or like mass suggestion. Like how do these tools get implemented into a campaign? And if you're just running a one-shot that you equip a character with these things, you know, you're basically test driving a character concept. It's a playtest for you. This is different from organically growing a campaign from scratch. So I enjoy running level 1 to 20 campaigns. It takes me about 250 hours to do it. If I have, if there's 20 levels, you're probably jumping to a pretty literal conclusion of basically, if I were to run a normal campaign as I do, and I have 3 or 4 hour session games as I currently do in my playtesting, it would be every 3 or 4 sessions the characters would gain a level, simply because of just the amount of content that's going to be covered during those 12 hours is potentially sufficient to accumulate enough experience points to gain a level. So like you guys have so far in the 2 play tests that you've had, you've fought 2 giant crabs, you've fought some a shambling mound, a huge size advanced wyvern, and had some other and had some puzzles in the sense of like navigating. Oh yeah, and there was the killer wasps that almost killed you. So you've had like you've had 2 deadly challenges, you've had 2 difficult challenges, and you've had a moderate challenge. So another 1 or 2 episodes of that is going to, for 3 or 4 characters, will be enough experience to gain a level. 2 deadlies, 2 difficult, and 2 moderate challenges. You're about 2/3 of the way through the experience I think that you need to be able to gain 6th level. So probably at the end of the next session, or maybe we'll extend it to the following, you guys will hit 6th level. And by then, you'll probably be messing around. You'll probably be thinking about how to get into the onto the Sky Islands where the Wyverns are at. So, like 1 or 2 sessions from now, that's probably where you guys are going to be at. And that's about when I anticipate you guys gaining a level. You'll be tougher. It'll be easier for you to be able to handle Wyverns. So you're traveling there right now, and you're having enough encounters to earn the experience that you need to be a tougher character to be able to take on the Wyverns. You fought the largest, like the Alpha Wyvern, the Apex Wyvern, last session at the end of the session, and it was really dangerous. And you guys were able to coordinate your actions well and defeat it. But if there was like 3 or 4 Wyverns, that would be a deadly challenge. And you guys, if you have to clear out a nest of Wyverns to make your caravan secure, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with the Wyvern nest. So, like, there's a flock of Wyverns, you're going to have to deal with them. That's a great challenge for 6th level characters. So, but on an ongoing, so this is the campaign that I've been running as a playtest started at 3rd level. It's going to go through 9th. So, like, it would end at 10th level if you were gaining levels. So, from 3 to 10, that's a small campaign arc. 7 levels, basically a third of your character's career that we're splitting up across multiple playtests in different teams in this West March style campaign. So the story environment continues to evolve with more challenges that the team overall faces, even though each individual player isn't necessarily facing all of those challenges. Like, we have people that were in the 3rd and 4th level playtest that are not present in the 5th and 6th level playtest, and we'll probably have new people for the 7th and 8th as well. Or we might have some of the old people back in the 7th and 8th. If we switch to Saturdays, for instance, we might regain some of the 3rd and 4th level playtesters, or we might find a blend of the two, depending on wherever it is that we land. Or we end up doing on Thursday, who knows? But pause and reflecting. Here for the art first. So that's like a third of a campaign, right? And you can, I kind of like loosely spelled out there, like the number of challenges you guys are facing and the pacing that I anticipate. So that pacing of like 12 hours is 3 or 4 sessions per level is pretty good, because after 3 or 4 sessions, you've had a chance to basically run through all of your abilities once or twice. So you get a good idea of like, what do you have available to you right now? What do you want to lean into? And then you gain, like, you normally don't gain like bang on awesome stuff every level. Like the half casting character structure we have for the martial power system is basically every 4 levels, your characters have a significant upgrade. And every 2 levels, there's like a half step upgrade. Like you gain enough power every 2 levels that you feel stronger. And while every 1 level is very incremental, but things are front loaded a bit in D&D. Like the first 5 levels has a lot going on. And then it starts to taper out a little bit with less frequent options that have more impact later in the game. So that's pacing levels. So as you go through a campaign of consistent character presence over the course of 20 levels, your characters learn what abilities create the results that they want among your team. Like you learn a dynamic of like the paladin and the druid work together in this circumstance, and like the bard and the rogue blend well in doing like, you know, downtime and gather information type stuff. Like little cliques form in the group that they can synergize their abilities well together to be able to like if you're in an urban campaign, having like gather information abilities is super useful. So you start leaning your characters in those directions because you're organically growing your characters to evolve inside of the environment that's created by the game space that you share in. A 20th level prefabricated character is going to be basically an optimized build. But like in campaigns that I've ran from level 1 to 20, I've had characters take just like one level dips, stray level dips to have access to some additional class features that they wanted, that they were fine. I'm gonna center myself. There we go. Like there might be like a low level class feature that somebody wants. So okay, well, organically, it makes sense that I take this class because like if I want the skilled feat, that means I'm not gonna get my ASI. Maybe I can just pick up some skills like by taking like a level of rogue. Like taking 2 levels of rogue will give me expertise and some skills. That's going to be really useful for me. So I'm willing to make that 2-level dip into rogue because going 4 levels as a fighter specifically just to gain an additional feat like at level 8. Like I just hit level 5 as a fighter and I've got all the really juicy low-level stuff from it, and now I'm looking at what do I need to optimize my character. Well, shit, I could really use some extra skills. Well, taking a 2 dip into rogue or a 2-level dip into bard or whatever is going to pick me up some extra skills that I'm finding is becoming important in this campaign because of reasons. And so great, now I can acquire the skills that I need to be able to have more successful ability checks because like exploration is a big thing in this campaign or whatever. So once you figure out what you need, you'll find your optimal path to get what you need quickest. And sometimes that means that you don't have a clean build. You have an organically built character that has, different. Hold on real quick. Cool. I just wanted to clean that up. Yeah. So when you run an organic 20-level campaign, you're going to end up with characters that are tailor-made to deal with the threats that have become prevalent inside of the campaign. Like Earth Elementals could be a huge issue in your campaign from like level 6 to 14. So everything that your team is doing from level 6 to 14 is gearing towards fighting Earth Elementals. And so for the DM to make sure that those characters in that configuration remain viable, Earth Elementals should remain present as a threat inside of the campaign after level 14. You could bend a different, like you could introduce like demons and stuff from level 15 through 20, but they might be like earth themed or like lava based fiends, so that it feels adjacent and relevant to the earth elemental specialized. Like they've been leaning all their tactics, all their skill focus, all their resources, their spell slots, everything going towards this earth elemental theme, and then flipping it on them and making it about goblins and pixie land is going to make their characters feel ill-equipped or misaligned with where the adventure is suddenly jackknifed. So like that's a Gonzo style campaign where you can't predict, like there's no predictable consistency amongst what the characters are seeing. It's just whatever bullshit the DM throws at you this week is what you deal with. So you're going to have a more generalist sort of character that can just roll with the punches of different types of stuff, versus this is going to be a vampire hunting campaign. Everything's going to be involved with like Strahd type stuff and thralls and vampire minions. So like having inquisitors and exorcists and undead hunters would make a ton of sense for that campaign. So the characters will evolve in that direction, and as they complete plots and new things get introduced, they'll twist their character selections to, again, hyper specialize in the threats that they're actually facing. So if you build a character from level 1 to 20, it's going to feel very different from a character that was just created at 20th level with no chain of events that led them to getting there. They just get spawned in at level 20, perfect, pristine, and optimal, without any of the inefficiencies that naturally evolve from an organically created campaign. So this is a lot of preamble to say, like, your team might not need gate. Like, you might not have a planar campaign. The last level 1 to 20 campaign I ran before the Spelljammer campaign I'm running now, it was another Eberron campaign, but it was a Groundhog Day time loop campaign, where every time whenever they fell asleep at the end of the day would start over, and they would wake up after a long rest, and they would start the same day over and over again. And the mission, the 20 level campaign, was to stop the apocalypse from happening at the end of the day. If they get to dawn, then like they'll never see dawn in the next day. Even if they stay awake till dawn, that's when the world ends, and they die anyway. And then they wake back up at the beginning of that day again after a long rest, and they can try again. So for the entire 280 hours that campaign ran, at the end of every day they died. And so they were building characters that couldn't retain stuff. So they they could only have whatever items they attuned to were the only ones that they could keep when they looped. So like those were their possessions. Some mundane gear that they went to sleep with, plus whatever they were attuned to, is what they would have when they woke up the next day, the same day again. So that caused their characters to be built completely unreliant on magical equipment. They were self-sufficient with their abilities, their spell selections, the feat selection that they took. Like they couldn't rely on having magic items, so they had to build characters that didn't need magic items, and that affected their particular growth, because that was a very weird rule of the game. Don't rely on magic items; you won't be able to keep them. So they learned where a bunch of consumable items are, so they could go gather consumable items that they'd only be able to use once anyway. So they got into building mana stones that held different, like one-use spell charge, like spell grenades. So like they had a disintegration grenade, they had a petrification grenade, they had a dispel bomb, a bunch of stuff that you use it once and it does a high level effect and then it's gone. So they would strategically choose when to use those items against different threats that they were facing. And that's how they built their characters, because that was the parameters and the challenges that they were facing in that specific campaign. In a campaign prior to that, they were helping evolve a campaign. They were trying to change who was the Prince of Thieves. They were working with somebody that was in contention for being the Prince of Thieves. And so they wanted to help elevate that character so that they would have an inside track to be able to do gigs. So everything that they did was about building support and helping their NPC progression. Very different campaign. The current campaign, they're running a guild. So all the decisions that they're making are about progressing the guild, not the characters. So these are all very different organic solutions that they make. So ask me about this again tomorrow morning, and I can continue delving into this topic. But that's the preamble. That to run an actual 1 to 20 campaign, the characters are going to build themselves around the challenges that the campaign is built on. They'll be completely different from a one-shot pristine character. And so then we can start talking about the scaffolding from one tier to the next, from level 1 to 20, how that changes as they gain levels. So that's the next step of it. So I'm done for now. It's time for me to log out. I'm going to be back at lunch today, probably around 1:30 in Seattle. That's about 5.5 hours from now. So I'll log on. We'll be doing some more. I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing some martial power stuff, and we'll just continue developing document from there. So see you guys later. Thanks for the questions, Ralph. Glad to have you on board. And anyone else that thinks this stuff is interesting, like to subscribe and jump into my Discord channel, and let's just throw some shit around. So see you guys later.